Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a corporate case study that is honestly absolutely dramatic. We're going to dive into how Adobe completely tore down and rebuilt its business, and in the process, fundamentally altered the trajectory of the entire software industry. Now, you have to remember, Adobe wasn't just some scrappy startup testing out a fun new idea. They were an absolute, undisputed monopoly in the creative world. If you were a designer, an editor, or an agency, you used their products, period. There was no alternative. So to take a massive bet-the-company pivot, abandoning the highly lucrative, totally safe world of box software to jump into the cloud was practically unheard of. It's a fascinating story of corporate courage, intense customer backlash, and ultimate transformation. Let's get right into it. I want you to imagine, just for a moment, sitting inside the Adobe boardroom in the late 2000s. You hold the keys to a wildly successful product line, but the ground is rapidly shifting beneath your feet. The rise of cloud computing and digital collaboration are completely changing how people work. Meanwhile, piracy is taking a massive bite out of your revenue streams, and your one-time software sales are becoming incredibly, dangerously unpredictable. Executives were literally sweating every couple of years, crossing their fingers and praying that the next big box release would be a mega hit, just to make their quarterly numbers. So you face this massive existential question. Do you aggressively protect the old, proven model that built your empire? Or do you disrupt your own success and completely reinvent the business before someone else comes along and does it for you? To truly grasp the friction, the sheer growing pains of this transition, we first have to rewind to their original status quo. Think back to the boxed software era. For years, Adobe literally sold creativity in a physical box. Designers, photographers, and entire agencies bought incredibly powerful, but very, very expensive software on physical disks. Try to picture that actual transaction. You drive to a store or order a heavy box filled with CDs, activation codes, and these massive paper manuals. And man, it was not cheap. A master collection could set you back upwards of $2,500 in a single purchase. You installed it, and then you waited years for the next upgrade. It was a massive, deeply entrenched way of doing business. But here's the thing, that old model suffered from a hidden rot. It looked sturdy, but it was incredibly fragile. Even with essential industry standard tools like Photoshop and Illustrator, relying on customers to shell out for expensive upgrades every few years left Adobe dangerously exposed. Those upfront fees were so steep that they actively locked out beginners and students who just couldn't afford that initial hurdle. And because new releases took years to develop, innovation bottlenecked. Revenue was a roller coaster. It would spike hugely when a new box dropped and then essentially flatline. Add in widespread piracy. When software costs thousands of dollars, people are highly incentivized to steal it, and customers deliberately delaying their upgrades to save a buck, and you've got a strategic nightmare brewing right under the surface. So, Adobe took a leap of faith to fix this structural problem, and I mean a massive leap. They decided to shift away entirely from selling isolated permanent product ownership, moving instead to providing a continuous platform through the Creative Cloud. This is what we call software as a service, or SaaS. It means shifting from permanent ownership to software licensed on a subscription basis, hosted centrally with continuous access and regular updates. Now, the broader market was slowly moving towards access rather than ownership, but in the professional creative space, this was totally untested. Adobe decided to lead the charge anyway, completely ripping out the foundation of their business to build a new one. Mechanically, this was an overnight paradigm shift. We're going from that old model of sky-high upfront fees and the agonizing wait for periodic upgrades straight into a completely new era. Suddenly, the entire value delivery system is transformed. It becomes about manageable monthly payments. It becomes about continuous upgrades, where bug fixes and groundbreaking new features drop instantly the very second they're ready. It's ongoing, uninterrupted access. For Adobe, it meant closer, more direct relationships with their users and vastly faster product improvement. But, as you can probably guess, making this switch, changing the exact nature of how people bought the tools they used every single day, wasn't exactly going to be a walk in the park. Because while this business model innovation made perfect financial sense on paper, it triggered a severe, visceral, emotional ordeal for the users. You really cannot underestimate the friction here. Asking loyal customers, people who had spent thousands of dollars over the years to own their tools, to suddenly rent them, sparked fierce, immediate resistance. Think about it from a graphic designer's perspective. Photoshop isn't just a piece of software, it's their livelihood. It's literally how they pay rent. The threat of losing access to their own files if their credit card bounced or they couldn't afford a monthly payment didn't just feel like a pricing change. To many, it felt like a ransom. It was a terrifying, fundamental loss of control. And the backlash, it was immediate and it was severe. Customers felt forced into these monthly payments and were deeply, deeply worried about what this would cost them over the next 5, 10, or 20 years. As one creative professional put it, they felt the rules had entirely changed on them mid-game. Freelancers and small businesses were outright panicking. If they stopped paying the monthly fee for any reason, would they lose access to their ongoing projects? Would their entire business just freeze? This was an incredibly dangerous transition period. The long-term business logic was crystal clear to the executives in Silicon Valley, but Adobe's core customer trust was suddenly being placed under immense, crushing pressure all over the globe. Which brings us to the million-dollar question: why take the risk? With social media absolutely filled with angry forum posts, highly publicized online petitions gathering tens of thousands of signatures demanding a return to the old model, and massive cancellation threats flooding in, why did Adobe's leadership knowingly absorb this nightmare? It was a PR disaster. They had to survive a brutal transition phase where their existing user base was in open revolt. Why on earth would you put your company through that? Well, the strategic genius behind all that pain was the interconnected ecosystem. Adobe realized the future wasn't just occasional upgrades. It was continuous, frictionless service. They were no longer selling isolated islands of software. Instead of standalone tools, they built a connected web. Photoshop now seamlessly links to Lightroom. Illustrator connects directly to InDesign. Premiere Pro syncs effortlessly with After Effects. Cloud libraries suddenly connect entire teams, files, and workflows across the globe in real time. They weren't just renting out software anymore. They were building a creative operating system to completely lock in the professional workflow. Because think about it, if an entire agency used Premiere, After Effects, and Photoshop seamlessly together on the cloud, packing up and leaving for a competitor becomes practically impossible. And for Adobe, the ultimate financial reward for surviving that absolute gauntlet of customer rage was the holy grail of modern business: predictable, recurring revenue. By shifting to a subscription model, Adobe replaced those jagged, anxiety-inducing sales graphs, where revenue would spike during a launch and then flatline for months, with a smooth, steady, continuous flow of monthly payments. Investor screens turned green. The stock price eventually skyrocketed. Suddenly, the business had incredibly clear visibility into its financial future, which allowed them to invest massive amounts of capital back into research, development, and strategic acquisitions with total confidence. This recurring revenue model fundamentally shifted how Adobe operated internally, too. Under the old model, success was entirely about forcing the next transaction. It was about dedicating massive marketing budgets to convince you to buy Creative Suite 6 when you already had Creative Suite 5, just hoping the new features were shiny enough to justify the upgrade. But now, success is all about keeping customers subscribed and engaged. It shifted the entire company's focus to maximizing long-term customer lifetime value. That meant product quality, daily reliability, and customer support became more vital than ever before because, hey, a customer could technically cancel next month if they weren't happy. However, we need to be totally objective here. This transformation is not just a one-sided corporate victory lap. As we look at the bigger picture, we have to acknowledge that the Adobe case raises some deeply important questions for the broader industry. It introduced highly complex realities and friction for the modern digital worker. We really have to ask, does subscription pricing truly benefit all customers equally? Because there is absolutely a catch to the SaaS model, a darker side, if you will. While the cloud brings rapid updates, amazing integrations, and absolute convenience, it also consolidates an immense amount of power into the hands of the software provider. Customers face significantly increased lock-in. They develop a heavy dependence on a single ecosystem to do literally all of their work. They face continuous, never-ending long-term costs that, over a lifetime, can vastly exceed what they would have paid for the old boxed prices. And there is a severe difficulty in leaving the infrastructure once your entire team and thousands of proprietary cloud files are embedded in it. These SaaS business models create a very real power dynamic between the massive tech company and the individual user. So, what can we take away from Adobe's dramatic journey? There are 5 major lessons here for any modern business leader. Number 1, you absolutely must evolve before your old model collapses. If you wait too long, you lose the leverage to transition smoothly. 2, expect emotional customer resistance. Change is hard, and the tools people use for work are deeply personal. 3, a SaaS model only survives if you provide continuous value. You can't just set up recurring billing. You have to earn that monthly fee every single month. 4, building connected ecosystems creates far stronger retention than selling standalone products ever could. And 5, true transformation requires immense courage, precise timing, and incredibly disciplined execution to manage user perception. Which brings us to the end of our explainer. I want to leave you with this incredibly provocative reality. If you do not reinvent your business model, someone else eventually will. Adobe moved from ownership to access, from isolated tools to a completely dominant ecosystem. It was deeply uncomfortable, it sparked incredible backlash, but it ultimately secured their future for decades to come. So, the question I leave you with today is this. In our rapidly shifting digital landscape, are you bold enough to disrupt your own success before the market inevitably does it for you?